Hey, Texas A&M throughout the year has become an elite defensive team, and I think they showed that tonight. Buzz and his staff has done a great job of getting better, their team getting better and better the entire year, and they deserve to play in New York next week. They got off to a great start, and we put our team in a hole that we just couldn't get out of. They had really good balance offensively. They can drive the ball. They made some timely threes when we were kind of making a run on them. And a credit to them for just, playing really well. They had a great crowd, as I expected, great enthusiasm in here, and congrats to them. We battled back in the game in the second half, but we just couldn't overcome the turnovers, and you knew that was going to be a problem. It would be hard to win here if we had this many turnovers. We had 21, but we knew how to attack them. And when we did, we got great looks. We didn't make those looks in the first half. We made some in the second. We had 15 assists on 18 baskets. And so the whole key to the whole game was you had to drive the ball, but the drive's not for you. You have to play across the midline, and you have to throw it, skip it, and then you have to play one more and then get them behind the play. When we did that, we made some really good plays. We got really sped up early, really uncharacteristic for us to play offense that way. Our defense kind of kept us in the game. It's not like they shot the ball incredibly well, but the turnovers were just too much. Again, what a great group of guys we have. To win 25 games this year is incredible. It's a great season. I'm very, very proud of them. I told them that afterwards. They have nothing to hang their head about. And, we'll learn from this. The younger guys, the guys coming back, so it'll be good learning experience for them. I told them 15 years ago or 17 years ago, I was in the same game here in our first year at A&M, and we beat Clemson on here. We went to DePaul and won, and then we lost to St. Joe's. And it was an emotional game that we got beat right at the end. And then, the next year we went to the NCAA tournament. We beat Syracuse, and then we lost to LSU on a buzzer beater, and they ended up going to the Final Four. And so we've got great momentum with our program, and I'm excited for the future. I'll open it up for questions.
Steve, on that defense, it's kind of a 1-2-2 or 1-3-1 type of full court. What was the thing kind of that you were disappointed maybe most about not breaking that a couple times?
Just getting the guys in the right places, taking on the trap. We've seen it a lot this year, and we've handled it. This is the same thing that VCU did to us. It's just a matter of taking on a trap, throwing out of it, and attack, and we just were sloppy with it. You got to want the ball. You got to want to embrace pressure, take on two, throw out of it, swing it, and attack. And when we did, we were pretty good. When we didn't, we weren't. And we made some uncharacteristic plays, that we don't typically make. We're going to turn the ball over, but maybe not the blatant ones that we had. I don't really know how to explain those because it's not something that we would typically do. We're going to turn the ball over, but not blatantly. And so, I thought that, we just didn't do a good job of executing what we needed to do.
Steve, a month ago when you said 20 wins is a good season, 25 is great, and 30 is special, I don't think you could have possibly imagined that if you got the 25, it wouldn't be in the NCAA tournament, given you're an ACC school. But I guess, how are you going to remember what you described to be a great team, a great season, even though the 25 wins didn't come along with an NCAA tournament appearance?
Well, postseason play, though, we had the opportunity to play again after we had a tough loss to BC in the ACC tournament. And I was talking about that in there, how much character they showed to come back and beat Towson and beat VCU to get to 25 wins and then put themselves in position tonight to go to the Final Four of the NIT. That's what I'll remember, and I'm not going to remember the bad plays or the lack of execution. I remember all the good things with these guys because they deserve it. They brought respect back to our program, and I'm very proud of them. And so, I think the bouncing back in life through adversity is a great lesson, and they did it. It could have easily just said, all right, we're done, shut it down, lose to BC, lose to Towson, and that's the end of the season. But they did it. They kept fighting and they kept fighting. They came in here and played a really good team that I ain't got beat. And so it happens, and we now we have time to reflect, and I told them to hold their head high. Nobody's more proud of them than I am. And I think they're a great group of guys that represent Wake Forest as best as anybody can on and off the court.
Steve, how well received was that message that you just gave them, or is it too fresh at this point for that to really sink in?
It's probably a little too fresh, Connor. I think there's disappointment and tears, which when something's really important to you and it means something, that's what happens. And I understand that. And I'm sure they'll have take some time for them to reflect on it and look back to what a special, what a great season that they had, and they did. And I'm not going to sit here and say that they didn't, because they did. And I know our fans feel that way. There's always the 1%ers out there that are going to whatever. And, you just block out the noise and you keep moving forward. And we have a lot of positive momentum in our program. I mean, look how hard Londa's played tonight. I mean, I thought he played, he passed the ball so well. We just didn't make the shots when he made those passes, and he gave up. He gave up the ball when he had to, and then he scored when he had to. And I thought he played great. And what a great year for him to have, to come in here and be the ACC Player of the Year. I'm real happy for him and Dallas and Davian and Isaiah, Dean, and the rest of the young guys. And we got a great future ahead of us.
Coach, you've touched on that momentum a couple of times now. What does that do for you? I mean, moving forward, being on the national stage, playing in postseason, I mean, how good is that for your program?
Oh, I think it can't hurt. It helps us, creating more of the narrative of turning this program around. I've never been a believer that one game or one win or one loss is going to get a recruit. That's what we're talking about here. I don't think that's going to do it. I think what it does is the body of work and the stats and the numbers and the style of play. Now we have all kinds of examples, positive examples of what we can do here, and that'll help us a lot. And getting in postseason play, more exposure on television, more you play on TV, the better. Because it's a powerful recruiting tool. And so that's the message that we'll have moving forward.
Steve, what's the next steps forward? What does the next month or so look like for you and the staff as you start to, I guess, work on 2022-23?
Yeah, we got to take some time off. The players do. It's a long season. We started on June 8th or whatever it was. I don't remember, but we had 160 practices. That's not counting games and pregame practice. So we're over 200. They need to get back to being a student, only. As a staff, we need to decompress a little bit. And then I think, we'll get together probably next week and have some individual meetings. Then I'm sure our whole staff will go to the Final Four. Some will, some won't. It's not mandatory. And then the following weekend, I think, is the first open period in recruiting, and so we'll be out recruiting. We'll have to meet with our players and address, the needs of what we need. And no matter who's coming, no matter what happens, we know some things, some holes we got to fill. And so we'll get to work on that and work, continue to recruit and continue to help our players get better. I think that's important, but they need some time off right now. It's a really long season, and they're tired.
Steve, following up on that, how much different do you hope this offseason looks versus last offseason?
Well, I don't want to sign 9 players. I'd be really disappointed if that was the case. I think I really like the future of our program. I feel really bad. Matt sprained his MCL on Monday in practice, and, he's going to be out for a little bit, but he's going to be fine. And, I think the future is really bright, with our young guys. We got some seniors that, we've talked about that have the decision to make. We can have that conversation now. And, we'll move forward with a plan. And I'm sure Jake will have to make a decision on, if he wants to explore his options in the NBA. And we'll do all that as a staff and as a family and make the best decisions for them and for our program, moving forward. And ultimately, that's what we'll do is I'll make the best decisions that's best for our program.
Steve, what are you most proud of this season?
Man, I don't know. A lot of things. Really proud of the way they played together. A bunch of new guys having tremendous chemistry. And we're one of the most efficient offensive teams. I know it didn't look like that tonight, but for the most part, we one of the most efficient teams offensively in the country. We've improved our numbers dramatically from a year ago on offense and defense. You know, they won some big games. You know, the first big game was probably the home game against Northwestern. You know, that was a well-played game. We won it in overtime. We had a great win at Charlotte. Man made a very unselfish play. You know, we come back and, you know, really big win over Syracuse at home, beat Florida State at home when they had their entire team before they had some injuries, unfortunately for them. Carolina win, at Virginia Tech, at Virginia. There's a lot of positives, fellas, tons of them. And so I think just navigating that and winning 13 league games and doing it as a team and coming to practice every day and being ready to go. They had very little did we ever have a bad practice. You know, they were always pretty much engaged. But, you know, and then I think in the end, the resiliency, you know, after going through some major disappointment, right? I mean, it was tough to lose to Boston College. It was tough not to be selected to play in the NCAA tournament, but they kept going. And they could have easily lost to Towson or VCU, but we did it. And credit to our crowd, too, that we continued to bring back our fans. And I'll finish with that. I think these guys brought our fans back in the building, and they need to be proud of that. And I'm sure our fans enjoyed watching these guys play the whole entire year.
Coach, congrats on a great season. Curious, you said June 8th was when you would say the season started. If you had to give an in-house most improved player award from June 8th to now, who would you give it to?
Wow. I don't know. You put me on the spot there.
You can give me up to 3. I'll take.
Up 3. I think Zay really improved, you know, from last year. I thought he had a really, really solid year. I thought he played great. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to go with the new guys because I didn't coach them, you know, but it would be really impossible to say that Alondas didn't get better. I mean, his numbers are off the charts. You know, I thought he come from where he came into to where he finished. You know, he really probably in the end Dallas. You know, Dallas was awesome. He had double digits again tonight. He had double. I mean, he played a lot of minutes the whole season after having like 2 or 3 ACLs before he came here. And so I'd say those guys probably off the top of my head would probably fall into that.
And then you mentioned maybe going to the Final Four. I'm curious if you have any other vacations lined up, a little getaway from basketball.
Yeah. My wife and I purchased a condo in Destin, and so we love it down there. I used to coach down there. And so that's for her, not me. That's her a reward for being married to me for 33 years. That's not a fun thing. And so she deserves it. And so I'm sure I'll get a chance to hopefully join her once in a while down there and be on the Emerald Coast and then get ready for another year. You know, it'll be here quickly. You know, June will start back over and, you know, there's some functions that we do, speaking and things like that in May and June that we'll have to do. I've got 3 graduations to attend in my own personal family. And so my son's graduating, Jonathan from high school. He's going to be, don't hold it against me, he's going to be at Tennessee ball, but good for him. You know, he's happy his friends go there. And so there's a lot of things, and it's time to do that a little bit, right? To get back to a quote unquote normal existence, you know, but we got some work to do.
All right, Coach, we'll let you go. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time, Steve, all season.
All right, we're joined by Isaiah Mucius. We'll open the floor to questions.
Zay, you're the one guy who was here when the previous staff was. What has this season meant to you as someone who never played postseason basketball prior to it?
I mean, it means so much, having the opportunity to even be able to play, after, March, whenever our last home game was, or our last ACC tournament game, was special for me, regardless if it was going to be an NCAA tournament or the NIT. I wanted to make sure I gave everything I got, each moment and each second of postseason. So, it was special for me. Our season was unbelievable. I mean, 25 wins, going from 6 wins is something that a lot of teams haven't done. So being a part of that and going through that and us battling day in and day out, practice games, off the court, building that chemistry is something that I hold dear to my heart. And we know that, we gave our all and we don't have any regrets, after, taking our loss today.
Isaiah, what was the feeling in that first half? You guys, I think, were 4 for 27 with 12 turnovers. Was it just kind of how could this get any worse feeling?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, shoot, the ball wasn't hitting going into the hoop. I mean, it felt like we couldn't even throw a rock into the ocean at times. And it was on both ends. I mean, they weren't hitting. They were only really getting a lot of points off our turnovers and, us not hitting shots. And, I mean, we're getting really, really great looks, right? I mean, we were, sticking to our game plan of, attacking the basket, kicking out the guys and forcing the help to come over. We used to hit tough shots, and I think that put us into a little bit of a hole. We started to hit shots in the second half, and I think that helped us, but the hole was too deep, going into the second half, and I think that cost us a little bit going forward.
Zay, what are you about next year? Is that something you'll consider the next couple of days, or what's your thinking along that about maybe coming back next year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, me and my family obviously I'm gonna take some time to recuperate and rest and, take my time and cheer on some of my, my friends that are still playing. And then me and my family was kind of sit down and put our options on the table and see what we can do moving forward. I mean, it's definitely not out of the table coming back for sure. I think that's still in the air. But we'll sit down and look at what we can do and, have talks with people and people in our circle and, make a decision, moving forward. I don't know when that date will be, but, I'll probably have a decision soon.
Zay, how important was it for you to kind of like right the ship offensively today and get some things going positively, especially considering, I mean, you didn't have the best performances in the first couple of games in this tournament?
Yeah, I think it was key. I think, there was just a spark that we were all looking for. And I think one of us was gonna, let it off. I think we were all just really motivated going into the second half, kind of flipping it around. I got hot early and I just try to continue to keep going and let that fire, spread throughout the team so we can keep going. And I think it did, but, they as a great team they are, and they're, Buzz, he's done an awesome job. I mean, he recruited me coming out of high school, and his energy and passion that he breathes into that team. I think they're going to be able to go far, going forward into the NIT. But it was a tough loss for us, but I think we don't have our heads down because this is a season that a lot of teams in the country, would have wanted to have. And I think we're blessed and honored to be able to have that season, and moving forward, I know the program is in the right hands.
Zay, it seemed like early on that their aggressiveness on defense and their trapping really took you guys out of rhythm. But then even when you ended up getting good looks, they weren't falling. Was it just that they kind of set the tone defensively, I guess?
Yeah, I think we sped ourselves up. I mean, we were getting so many good looks, and I think, once you get kind of late into the shot clock and you don't want to turn the ball over now, when the ball gets into your hands, you're not taking your time, right? Rather than, everything's speeding up, so your shot is sped up. So I think, we got sped up a little bit on the offensive side. When we slowed down, we started to make shots. So I think, coming next time, you go into a game like that, you just got to make sure that you slow down and take your time. You're the one with the ball. You're the one that is going to set the tone and the pace. Don't let somebody else create that pace for you. So, and that's something to definitely learn and move forward.
Zay, congrats on a great season. I'm just curious, do you think Texas A&M is one of the best teams you've played all season? Or looking back on the season, is there a team that sticks out that was, the most difficult opponent?
That's a good question. Shoot, I honestly think I mean, there's so many games I can go back on and say like these teams are good, but I honestly personally think that like there was no team that like was like we were going in like, man, like this team's gonna be a problem every single game. And at the time, like I haven't had that feeling before in a long time. Every single game I went into, we like were confidently 120% like going to win that game. Like, I never had a time where I was like, oh, this team is really, really good. This team is really, really bad. Like every single game was like, we're gonna win. And that's when you have a team that, we had this year, that feeling and that confidence is built within yourself, right? Like, and that was something that I was super, super special to be a part of. But I mean, they were a tough team. I think like, them being a little bit undersized, people would think that they're not as good, but they play hard. Like Buzz is a guy and a coach who literally, gets kids who are overlooked and builds them into great players. I mean, Justin Robinson, who was there my freshman year, is a pure example of somebody who's like that. I mean, he was overlooked in high school, came there and became a great player for them and is, in the league now. So that's what he does, and that's what his team is now. And I think, they're a good team.
Zay, Steve said a little while ago that talking about you guys, he said, these guys brought our fans back into the building and they should be proud of that. You have as much perspective as anybody on the roster on what that looks like.
Mhm.
What did that piece mean to you to see the collective following in Winston-Salem and even beyond that for Wake Forest basketball grow this year?
I think the first thing is like my family, we're all big on respect, right? I mean, respect is something that is never given but earned. And I think that's what we did. I mean, earning the respect of the fans like that is tough. It's tough to do. Like going 3-4 seasons of losing and trying to earn that respect, regardless if you're, come to the games, like you have to earn that. You have to show them that you're there. Like you have to show them, listen, you can come to the games. It's going to be enjoyable. And, that speaks volume. And it means so much to me that, I was a part of the team that brought, Wake Forest and energy back. Like we're gonna be a team that's gonna be talked about for 10 years down the line about like, man, Wake Forest got back to where it's at. Like, how did it start? And like this could be a team that you could do a 30 for 30 on, and where it's like, man, these guys came from all different paths of lights and different paths and journeys, and they came together and were able to have a 25-win season and start and kickstart a program that's gonna take off in the near future. So I'm excited and blessed to be a part of that. And it means so much to me, especially because, I've been in the dark times of Wake Forest basketball and now being on the other side is amazing and is special to me.
Do we have any more questions for Isaiah? All right.
Thanks, Zay.
Isaiah.
Appreciate y'all.
Appreciate you, Zay.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.